The following is a fan-based review and is owned by Toei Inc. and Bandai. We claim no ownership to the material we are discussing and is based on pure opinion.
I just finished ZX, that was shit. Let's see what Kamen Rider Shin is like. Oh god! Oh god! Oh pillow! Is it over?
Hi!
One day we will start a video that doesn't burst my eardrums.
Nah, where would the fun of that be? So this week, on the Tokucast, we're doing Kamen Rider Zx and Kamen Rider Shin.
And before we get started, Jacob will unfortunately not be joining us for these videos today. He has a scheduling conflict with work, so
Yeah.
he'll be back.
Mm-hmm. He'll also be putting up his own review of this sooner or later. I'm not 100% sure as to when.
But so this week, because the 90s really don't have any Kamen Rider shows, we're doing the ZX movie and the Shin movie.
And the next one we'll be doing is the ZO and J movie after our Zyuranger review in a few weeks.
So let's start with ZX.
This movie exists. Let's go ahead and talk about this for a quick little bit, because really not a lot ends up happening in this movie.
The opening song was okay.
I didn't mind it. It was very excitable. Just, thunder striking, lightning, and all that good jazz.
The lyrics in these songs are shit, though.
Thunder striking, lightning, and all that good jazz.
Ride jump, ride kid.
To be fair, it could be a lot worse. It could be stronger.
Yeah.
You see? Exactly.
But
I mean, it
was just a very generic kind of movie where isn't ZX like a prototype Kamen Rider that never got his own show, so they gave him a movie?
Well,
isn't that the backstory behind this?
Let's get into that, because this whole movie ends up starting out with Ryo Murasame, who ends up becoming Kamen Rider Zx in this. He's an aircraft pilot, and one day he was taking his sister out on a ride along the Amazon, the anniversary movie. And then they were shot down by a UFO.
Yeah,
because,
we did forget to mention that. This is the 10th anniversary movie for Kamen Rider.
Yep. They end up surviving. They end up getting captured. His sister is killed. So, standard Kamen Rider opening.
Yeah.
He ends up becoming a combat droid for this new place known as ZX. His memory is erased by the Empire, and then he ends up getting his memories back later on.
And then they live happily ever after.
No. I mean, really, when does that ever end up happening? He ends up, regaining his memories and going to attack this Empire as they end up finishing the preparations for the Doomsday Weapon. However, at this point, we end up getting some returning riders end up coming back. V3 comes back, Riderman, and Super One end up coming back in this movie. And for some reason, ZX doesn't know who they are, not seeing that they're fighting the Badan Empire, so he ends up trying to fight them for some odd reason, because, story conflict has to exist somewhere.
No, because they had nothing else to put in the story.
They really didn't. Not to mention, this movie is only 45 minutes long, so we'll call it, extended episode. But
I don't mind ZX's costume. I actually kind of like it.
His costume is actually pretty badass. He's our first ninja rider, even though it's not explicit like I sort of wanted it to be. It doesn't really show.
That is the one Kamen Rider motif Marcus has always wanted.
I wanted when Ghost when the rumors were starting to go around, there was a rumor that I was going to be a ninja rider. I was really hoping that
wasn't there also a rumor there was going to be a fashion rider? I
mean, that still sort of ended up becoming an actual thing, though.
Yeah, but not with the coat hanger bow that was with the rumors.
Yeah, that just turned out to be a telephone.
What was worse? I lost in the comments.
But yeah, it's those three riders end up coming back. The other riders are out fighting this empire.
Yeah.
ZS is getting injured in some way. They end up taking him back.
And then we put everything on hold for a clip show.
Yeah, it does end up becoming a clip show at this point. It isn't the worst. I like the fact that they bring back V3 Riderman and Super One, especially V3, because that man is amazing.
What about Riderman?
He exists. Super One, this is our first real time actually getting to know the character.
And I really wish we could actually... I would love to watch Super One, and I would love to watch X.
What about Sky Rider?
Sky Rider, but from what I saw in the movie, Sky Rider can fly, that's about it. X looks like he's got lots of nifty toys.
He was the first one to really have, those arm changes.
Which,
X sort of had those himself with, Super One ends up having the arm changes. X ends up having, the staff, the rod, and all these other weapons that...
Lots of sticks.
Yeah, he could turn into lots of sticks. I was going to make a dick joke, decided not to because I'm better than that.
But you brought it up, meaning you're not better than that.
I'm not. I tried. But yeah, we end up getting introduced to Ambassador Darkness, who's like the overseer of the Badan Empire, who ends up looking
and
like
who looks like his costume is squishing up his face the entire movie.
I mean, we've had villains like this in the past where they end up looking almost the exact same. This character...
It just looks... I'm just saying the costume just looks like it's uncomfortable because it literally looks like it's squishing up his face.
Yeah.
So he's like, Kamen Rider, how dare you?
And we should mention, because this is a thing that happens a lot more in Japan this time. Stop it. This is a thing that happens in Japan where anytime it's like ZX or Hunter X Hunter, like how the way we would end up pronouncing it, Zekross, and Hunter Cross Hunter. Mm-hmm. So that's just a weird thing that I did want to mention because the entire time I've been calling him ZX, and I'm saying, well, I'm apparently incorrect. But getting back to the actual story, as you said, this ended up turning into a clip show where V3 apparently has everything on film.
Yeah.
I don't understand how any of this works.
It's like the Avengers. It was like when they were showing the Avengers 2 trailer, or the Civil War trailer, I mean, and they're showing all the clips from the past Avengers, and I'm like, how did you get that?
Well, to be fair, that's and S.H.I.E.L.D. has everything.
But I'm just saying it's the exact. But when the actual movie came out, they were showing different clips that actually looked like it made sense. But in the trailer, it was just like they shot from the movie. I'm like, how did you? Okay, that's a panning shot. How'd you get that?
Now, getting back to this movie, sorry, this is the only thing I really end up having one of the major problems with it. He doesn't know these other Kamen Riders exist, and I find that to be impossible.
I mean, no other Kamen Rider knows any other Kamen Rider.
Well, I mean, after like Kuga, like you could tell they take place in separate universes. Kuga and Nagito. Yeah.
Well, that also helps with the decade.
In this case, it's like they're a known thing. He has to know who they are. They're all in the same universe at this point. He has to know.
I guess it could be argued there's something. I guess it could be argued that because he lost all of his memories, he may have also lost memories of the existence of Kamen Riders, and maybe not all of it came back, just the important bits. But choose your plot hole.
I guess if you're going to want to go ahead and pick up bullshit somewhere, it's right there.
Choose your plot hole.
The plot hole has to appear. So of course they end up Baden ends up bringing back some past monsters. They end up going out to like the other 9 riders and going. The
entire point of this movie is to 1, take you down nostalgia lane, and 2, introduce a character that behind the scenes they designed but never got a chance to make a show for, but they wanted to show him off.
And it's really weird because they don't really show him off in this movie.
Nope.
He ends up coming in literally at the very end after they end up beating the rest of the monsters. ZX just rides in and then they end up beating the bad guy. I'm just like, you literally underutilize this character.
Your title character shows up and has less screen time than any other character.
He's in that movie for about 5 minutes.
Yep.
And then we end up getting introduced to, throughout the movie, this girl and this, her grandfather, who are getting captured by Badan to, make sure ZX doesn't attack them or anything. And I'm sitting here why? These characters don't matter in so many ways, and that bothers me to no end.
This movie doesn't matter.
Because
Special doesn't matter.
This movie and Shin end up having the same exact problem. Where you can tell they were trying to go ahead and actually really do something either with the story or something, or at least introduce this character's movie so they could either have a series of movies or a series, a TV series right after it, but it doesn't end up going anywhere. And that bothers me.
Yeah. This entire movie was just uneventful, boring. I just wanted it to be over.
Yeah. It's it doesn't really end up having anything to do with anything else, and that's a definite problem. I mean, ZX could have been a lot better. I mean, he's been in video games before. He's in the most recent Batch Ride War, but he's only a support character. And the reason he is only a support character is because
he has no character.
Yeah, he has no character. We don't really know what any of his powers are. Apparently, in the game, he can throw shooting stars and everything. Of course, he has his own rider kick. And I'm just, you didn't do anything with this character. I mean, we see him in Black RX, and I mean, he's only there for 3 seconds. He has one line, "I'm Zekros." And then that's it. That's the end. That's the only thing we end up hearing from ZX. This movie wouldn't end up being so bad if they end up actually doing something with the character they introduced.
And not a clip show.
And not a clip show. But I understand why it was.
I understand why it's a clip show, but I'm sorry. I get it's an anniversary, but clip shows are a bad idea in general.
Yeah.
The only show that's ever done a clip show, recap well, in my opinion, is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Turbo Ranger did it sort of well because they have like this pre-episode before the show actually started.
Really?
That was just like for the last 10 years because at this point Go Ranger and Jacka weren't considered an actual Sentai again until O-Ranger. So they just end up going like, this is episode 0 of Turbo Ranger. It's like about a 15-minute special where it's just them, like the past 10 seasons coming in and just like showing off their powers.
Yeah, that's different though.
Yeah. This, you tried to do too much and you did it so poorly.
And you didn't have enough time to do it.
Speaking of not enough time to do it, let's go ahead and switch over on to ZX. Shin.
Shin.
Now,
definitely better than ZX.
Yes.
Hour and a half.
This was an actual theatrical release.
Oh, really?
They did go ahead and put it in movie theaters, but it did have some issues.
Gee. Like what?
Well, the first thing we actually ended up seeing...
Was terrifying one of them?
Let's get into that. Because at the very beginning of this movie, it's like all these people are walking into this room, and this one guy ends up putting like a microphone or something under the table. This guy is extremely important. Wanna know why?
Why is that?
Guess who he is?
No, that.
Shotaro Ishinomori. He's the creator of Kamen Rider. This is the first time we've ever actually seen him on screen.
Wow.
Yeah. He's the old guy at the beginning who ended up putting the microphone under the thing in the lab.
Wow.
I was like, you look exceedingly familiar, but of course I really didn't know who he was because this is like the first time we ever really seen him either speak or anything. He unfortunately ended up passing away a couple of years, like 5 or so years after this movie ended up coming out. But it's like, this is the first time we get to see the true creator of, I guess, the Skullman character who became Kamen Rider. And, he created Go Ranger and everything else. I love that.
Moment of silence. Alright, that was good.
Okay.
Now, my biggest issues with this movie, because it was definitely better.
Let's get into the actual plot. And I guess some of the characters, because I know a lot of the issues that we're going to end up having were the same at the end of this. So the plot ends up coming in where they're, like, in this lab.
It's a very generic plot.
Yeah.
Science. We're all about coulda, not shoulda.
Yeah. In this case, they end up doing.
And one guy has a weird obsession with grasshoppers.
Yeah, I mean,
to the level of I might be fearful of it becomes sexual.
I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, it starts out where they end up trying to like make something to cure a whole bunch of diseases like cancer and AIDS.
And it's three stages. One is like one will repair broken cells, one will give birth to new cells, and step 3 is one will enhance living cells to the point where they won't get sick again.
Yeah.
And stage 3 is where the superhuman grasshopper hybrids come in, but our main character is having nightmares about killing people.
Yes.
And that turns out the slaughters are actually happening.
Yeah, the movie starts out with where you end up seeing these two people, like, a whole bunch of news reports have happened.
No, I love it's following this one girl, killing her off,
mm-hmm.
and then a couple making out in the car on make-out point kind of bullshit, with a news report on the radio playing, young people are getting slaughtered at night, please go home after dark. And then then the monster comes up on them, and I'm just like, y'all are stupid bitches.
No, the reason they did that is to lure the guy out. They turned around, they were police.
That was the point. It's like, y'all are stupid bitches, and then they turn around and are pointing guns at them, like, oh.
And then they scream.
This worked.
And then they get killed.
They still get killed. They're still
and then, like,
bitches.
their backup ends up coming in, and then most of their backup ends up getting killed. In some of the most gruesome ways.
All that red maple syrup, though.
Yeah, all that. So much pancakes.
And paint.
But
it still did what it tried to do. It was very violent. It was like we were watching Amazon again.
It set up the character, or at least the overview of the characters, like this is not someone who's like your other Kamen Riders. Even though this is a completely separate character from the actual main character.
I'm withholding what I want to say because that's gonna be my overview of the show.
It's like the name of the test subject is Shin Kazamatsuri.
That's the guy who wakes up and then
and he's a motorcycle racer of the main doctor. Yeah,
he's the son of the main doctor. He's a test subject with this thing. He's also in love with the nurse.
Yeah. Apparently their operation is funded by a syndicate group who plan to use the research.
Who just call themselves the employers, the syndicate.
Yeah,
they are nameless and it's lazy.
The generic, that's who they're named.
Thank you.
They've already been experimenting on random soldiers and things, trying to make them into cyborgs. It hasn't really been working.
Now, if only they didn't hire the guy who had the obsession with grasshoppers.
Yes, the guy who had the obsession, Onizuka, ends up
being the first one.
Yeah, he ends up becoming the first one by fusing a grasshopper's DNA with his own, and then later doing it to Shin as well. In order to start a new civilization.
Some strange world, that was a good idea.
Yeah. It's just... So Onizuka ends up having like this mysterious lab where he's... Because, it's always the guy who's wearing glasses who's evil.
Holy shit, you're right.
It's always the guy who's wearing glasses who is evil. And he's Onizuka has experiments on himself. These people end up breaking in. And it's like sort of like, I think they're the CIA? That's who they were trying to make them out to be.
That was who the one girl works for with her broken English phone call.
It could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse. Because it could have been that other guy who tried to speak English, and I was just like, what are you saying again?
My problem with this is that I get the broken English on the phone call. If you're speaking to an English speaker and you're part of the CIA, yes. But when she ends up later in the movie, when they break into the facility, she's speaking English to her men. Which, to me, shouldn't make sense. Unless they are CIA agents, which they did not specify.
They really didn't.
As far as I would have first assumed that they are Japanese soldiers, why are you speaking English to them giving orders like that?
Yes. And then, so later on, they end up capturing Onizuka as the monster. They end up driving away in a truck. And that truck, after they end up breaking into this place, it ends up overturning and catching on fire. And Onizuka comes out in his monster form. And Shin is there because he was driven on his motorcycle. He was sort of drawn to Onizuka at this point. And this is the first time...
yes, because there was a conversation that the two of them had that grasshoppers could kind of communicate using telepathy.
Yeah.
Sure.
I guess in this case, in this world, in Japan, that it can. But this is the first time we get to see...
bullshit.
This is the first time we get to see Shin transform. Matt, what do you think about that?
It is nightmare-inducing. It is gruesome, grotesque. It is cool. That's the thing. I don't mind it, but holy shit, when I first saw it, I had a nightmare for a week.
It's very different.
That's the word you're going to use.
There's no belt.
There's no belt. He's literally shedding his human skin.
Yes, he ends up looking like the monster from like Jeepers Creepers or something like that. Where it's just like the antenna ends up bursting
through his head.
Out of his head.
He's got a predator mouth that opens at the chin. Just
yes. It's scary as hell, and I love it.
I wanted a pillow to hug during the review. He wouldn't let me have it.
Nope. But I love the way that this ends up working out.
It works fine.
Because
that's the thing.
You can tell that this is something that's so different. So unexpected. It's like
this is something we did forget to mention. This is the 20th Kamen Rider Anniversary Special.
Yes. It's basically Amazon's if it's on crack. And I love
It's Amazon with
a lot more grotesque.
A lot, because it's Amazon with a movie budget.
Yes.
It's Amazon with a movie budget and not a kids show.
I mean,
not a show aimed towards children primarily.
They were trying to reinvent the series at this point because, after Black RX, people really fell off Kamen Rider because Black RX was terrible. Please correct, our Black RX review up with the annotation somewhere. But
we didn't make it.
We did not. But that ends up happening. It's so weird to see something like this. They were trying to bring back Kamen Rider, and this is why we just end up getting.
And this is why we didn't get Kamen Rider back until 2000.
Yeah, after Ishinomori passed away. Like the next two things we end up getting are just more movies where we end up getting Zio and Jay.
My biggest complaint with this movie
is should
we finish off the plot?
Yes.
Okay.
Because there is this other monster who's like another experiment and ends up working for the Syndicate. And this guy is sort of badass. He comes in and just straight up wipes through Shin the first time they end up fighting.
Yeah.
Shin gets his arm torn off, by the way.
And then he gets it back.
He grows it back. He's basically pissed.
And then, because we did forget to mention one part. Because he thinks he was the first monster. He thinks it was him. And he's having this crisis, and his friends are trying to help him.
And that other friend, that guy...
Who didn't matter.
Literally comes in. I could tell because Shin, there's a reason why this is called Shin Prologue. They were trying to make a series of movies from this, but I feel like that guy would have been a lot more important later on because literally he just tells him not to go ahead and try to get involved in anything. Then he walks off and he's never seen again.
For the rest of the movie.
Literally for the rest of the movie.
And then what happens is...
And then the nurse gets like...
The nurse goes to console him because they are a thing.
Yes,
There is
we
some,
do
like-
get to see, like, she's showering, and we get to see her boobies at some point throughout.
That's what I was about to say. They had pool sex.
They did have pool sex. And it was, like, the weirdest thing, because I didn't expect to see boobs.
No, neither did I.
I was like... It took me, like, several moments to compose and get myself back together.
And my favorite part is that when they're at the pool, they're both naked in the pool on this, like, floaty, and he's just like this.
And all we see is ass for days.
No, we just see his ass, and he's just got this, like, this face
the
that...
most intense of faces.
The most intensive faces where I think the director just said, look intense. And that was the face, but the face just kind of looks like he's a spoiled kid who didn't get his toy.
Yeah.
Man!
They're, like, and I understand why he looks like that.
Yeah, he thinks he's killed a bunch of people.
And
Then he didn't.
Yeah.
But I'm also... You never really expect people to look like that after pool sex.
Yeah, you think they'd be a lot happier unless
They'd be in a better mood.
Unless that chlorine is burning them.
Or she was really bad at sex.
Or that. Either way, she ends up becoming pregnant.
And Vega Baby.
Yeah.
That was me and Jacob watched this together. That was the joke we made the entire time, that it was Vega Baby.
But she ends up becoming pregnant. This baby has apparently a whole bunch of powers, so the Syndicate ends up kidnapping her.
Yeah, she's 3 days pregnant, and there's already a fetus.
Well, I think it's because of what happened to him. This baby grows a lot faster.
Sure.
We'll say that because...
They don't explain it.
They don't explain it. But that does end up happening. She ends up getting captured. His dad ends up getting kidnapped. As we said, his dad is the main scientist. He ends up getting kidnapped by the Syndicate as well. They end up held up in the same room.
And they're like, we're not going to hurt you because that baby's important.
Yeah, and then, apparently... The baby
and then they shoot her.
No, the baby has a whole bunch of powers to begin with, and so when the main head guy of the Syndicate ends up coming in, her vagina opens and blasts out a whole bunch of power at him
and knocks them all out. And then Shin shows up to save them. They try to escape.
The monster ends up finding them
with an Uzi.
Yes, and then he is it's like he has the guy form, and then he ends up transforming into the monster. And they end up having this big fight, which is extremely brutal. Because they're just ripping each other
Oh yeah, you're talking about there was the robot thing that he fought.
Oh yeah.
I think that was afterwards because he was pissed.
Yeah.
Because dude man got an Uzi, tries to shoot Shin.
No, that happens at the very end. Oh yeah, because that happened before. And the head
she
guy
jumps in the way, and she gives this bullshit death speech of I don't care if I die. Just make sure the child lives. I don't know how the fuck that's going to work out. If you die, you got it in you. Okay. And then he gets really mad, beats that motherfucker.
No, he tears him apart. He has blades on his arm, so he is just going in on this dude. And I'm sitting here I wish this was an actual thing. I wanted this to be a show at this point.
I wouldn't mind watching. And then he gets attacked by this robot monster, and I hit you not. We're talking Mortal Kombat fatality. Beats the crap out of him, grabs him by the head.
No, he gouges out his eyes first.
And then grabs him by the head and picks him up, and then just a spine rips out.
And I was like, this is now Sub-Zero.
And then it starts counting down because Robot self-destruct.
Yeah, apparently gets a predator.
And throws it and it blows up.
Yeah.
And then then they get away in a helicopter. Leaving his girlfriend.
More or less. His girlfriend's already dead.
Leaving her in a very uncomfortable, laying on a box, feet dangling.
And the girl who came and helped him earlier apparently was never really going to be helping them at all. That chick ends up shooting down the helicopter. His dad, I'm guessing, did end up dying because his dad and he were the only ones.
Because then the next frame is him carrying his dead girlfriend. How'd he get there? Vega Baby coming out of her vagina as energy, looking and father and son having alright. And he disperses. The baby does.
And just
end of movie. Oh no, I'm sorry. Movie ends with him on a motorcycle going down the street and text appearing as they're typing up the file, and they're going codename Masked Rider, which is the only reference to Kamen Rider in this entire fucking movie.
We get the title screen where it's just Kamen Rider, then it says Shin at the front,
and that is my problem with this movie. It is not a Kamen Rider movie. It makes no reference to Kamen Rider other than those 2 times, and it's a bug. That's it. It is your B-roll monster movie otherwise.
But I didn't 100% mind it. I did have a lot of problems with it. And like I said, the biggest problem I had with this and with ZX is the fact that their characters are really... I'm happy we're doing these together because their characters are really similar, where there's nothing to them. And that not to mention, ZX has a bike. Shin doesn't. He's the only Kamen Rider without a bike.
Wasn't he riding off in a motorcycle again?
That's his bike, but the actual
he doesn't
rider.
He doesn't have a rider machine.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like that ends up happening. This whole thing is just a mess. There's really no characterization to anyone. That one guy walks off the screen. We never see him again. Like, he is now, I don't know, what is the name of the guy from that? Oh, he's basically like that guy from Happy Days where he ends up going upstairs and we never see him come down again. I wouldn't have as big of a problem with it because, as I said, these were both things that were supposed to launch something. And it didn't happen. ZX is because I guess they just didn't really have the budget for it until Black, and Black, argued, well, not really even arguably, it definitely would have ended up being the better show. Shin, there was a lot of kickback to this. People didn't really like it.
I wonder why.
They felt, basically like you did, it's like it's not a Kamen Rider. This is basically a monster movie with the rider name attached to it.
Thank you! Sorry. That was my biggest pet peeve with this movie.
There was a lot of murders, and I was just like, okay.
If it did not have the Kamen Rider name anywhere attached to it, this would have been a decent movie.
Yeah. But it had something to live up to, and it definitely did.
No.
And I do have a bit of a problem with that because of it. It's just, I don't mind it being so different. Don't get me wrong with that. But it's just, it felt so off. It just felt way too brutal for its own good.
Yeah.
It's like, Black was brutal, but...
brutal in a different way.
Yeah, it felt contained. Amazon's is a much better version of Shin. Where it's all very contained to this one thing. It actually makes sense that it's a Kamen Rider show.
And then we still get it back with Amazons.
Yeah. And it's like, don't get me wrong, ZX is just boring. Shin, it's a good movie. I do suggest that you do end up watching it at some point.
Give it a watch.
It's very
because
different.
It's not a whole show.
Yeah.
I don't say recommend it, but I was just like, give it a watch.
It's an hour and a half.
It's an hour and a half. It's still the 20th anniversary special.
You get to see Ishinomori on screen for the first time. Be happy. I mean, that's basically it. I like the movie.
And at least that way you can know my horror of that engine.
It's so great. But yeah, thank you for watching us with us this time. And please join us next time as we finally burst into nostalgia.
With Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger. The nostalgia can only do it so much.
But thanks, guys.
See you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.